My name is Lena Morgan. I'm 34 years old, and I live in a quiet coastal town called Stonehaven. I work as an accountant for a small local company, and most of my days follow the same calm and predictable rhythm. I wake up early, drink a cup of coffee while watching the sun rise over the harbor, then drive to work through the peaceful morning streets. I live with my husband, Aaron, and our 6-year-old daughter, Emma. For years, our home felt warm and full of simple happiness. We had our little routines, walking Emma to school, cooking dinner together, and watching family movies on weekend evenings. Aaron used to come home with funny stories from his office, laughing as he dropped his briefcase on the sofa. He was gentle, present, and full of light. I used to believe our family was unshakable. I used to believe nothing could disturb the life we built. But a few months ago, something began to change. Quietly, slowly, and almost invisibly at first. I just didn't know how much that change would affect us. Before anything felt strange, our life was soft and steady, like the rhythm of the ocean in our little town. Every evening, the smell of dinner filled our kitchen. Roasted chicken, warm bread, or Emma's favorite vegetable soup. We always ate together, all three of us squeezed around the small wooden table Aaron had built years earlier. After dinner, we often played board games. Emma loved it when Aaron made silly voices for every character. She laughed so hard she sometimes fell off her chair, and Aaron would scoop her up and tickle her until she begged him to stop. Aaron worked at a construction site, and he always came home with stories. Funny co-workers, unexpected mistakes, little victories from the day. Emma hung on every word, especially when he talked about the big machines. I loved watching them together. It made our home feel alive. On weekends, we took long walks along the beach. The air smelled of salt and seaweed, and Emma chased the waves with bare feet. Aaron always bought us ice cream from a small shop near the pier. He chose chocolate, Emma chose strawberry, and I chose vanilla, every single time. Aaron teased me for having no imagination, and I pretended to be offended before laughing along with him. Our marriage felt strong. Not perfect, but warm and honest. Aaron and I told each other everything. At least, that's what I believed. He was my best friend, the person I trusted more than anyone in the world. When I looked at him, I felt safe, like no trouble could ever reach us as long as we faced it together. Our home had its own soundtrack, Emma's giggles, Aaron's deep voice, the gentle hum of the ocean outside. And every morning, the smell of freshly baked muffins from the bakery next door drifted through our window, reminding me of how lucky I was. I had once believed my marriage was completely safe, untouchable, unbreakable. Before everything began to change, quietly and slowly, without warning. The shift in Aaron didn't happen overnight. It began quietly, like a faint crack in a window, small enough to ignore at first, but impossible to repair once it spread. He became distant in ways I couldn't explain. At dinner, he used to tell stories that made Emma giggle and made me feel connected to him. But now he often came home late, muttering something about extra work, and warmed his food alone while the rest of us had already eaten. On some nights, he didn't eat at all, saying he was too tired or had already grabbed something on the way. Instead of relaxing in the living room with us, Aaron disappeared into his office after dinner. He would close the door, lock it, and stay inside for hours. The soft glow from under the door became a nightly reminder that he preferred a world without us. Even when he came out, his phone was always in his hand. He used to leave it charging on the kitchen counter, untouched for hours. Now, it never left his pocket. Even in the bathroom, even when putting Emma to bed, he kept it with him as if it held something fragile, something private. I tried to ask him what was going on. Are you stressed? Is work getting harder? I asked one night while he was folding his shirts. I'm fine, he said sharply, not looking at me. Are you sure? You've seemed. Lena, I said I'm fine. His voice snapped like a branch, startling both of us. After that, I learned to keep my questions quiet. Weekend family time slowly disappeared. Aaron claimed he had meetings, deadlines, urgent site inspections. He left early, came home late, and smelled of the outside world. Coffee, dust, unfamiliar perfume, something I couldn't name. I felt the space between us grow wider, colder. I felt like I was living with a stranger who just happened to know where we kept the spoons. Then one night, while Emma was drawing on the living room floor, she looked up with wide, sad eyes and asked, "Mommy, why doesn't Daddy play with me anymore?" Her voice was small, confused, hurt. It pierced me deeper than anything Erin had done. I wanted to tell her it was just a busy week, that everything was fine, but I couldn't lie to her. I kissed her forehead and whispered, "Daddy loves you. He's just distracted." But even I didn't believe my own words. A few days later, I went into Erin's office to clean. He hated when I touched his things, but the room was a mess. As I dusted his desk, a folded receipt slipped from a stack of papers and fluttered onto the floor. A restaurant receipt. An expensive restaurant. Dinner for two. The date was from the previous weekend, one of the weekends he claimed to be stuck in meetings all day. When Erin came home, I showed him the receipt. He didn't panic. He didn't stutter. He simply said, "I met a client there. It was nothing important." His voice was steady, but his eyes looked everywhere except at mine. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. But my heart whispered a truth I couldn't ignore. Something isn't right. I couldn't keep living inside my own questions anymore. One evening, after Emma had fallen asleep and the house felt still enough to hear my own heartbeat, I asked Erin to sit down with me in the living room. The lamp beside us cast a soft, warm glow, but the space between us felt cold. He sat on the opposite end of the couch, arms folded, eyes distant. "Erin," I began, my voice shaking slightly, "we need to talk." "Really talk?" He didn't answer, only shifted in his seat. I took a breath. "Do you still love me? Because it feels like I'm losing you." The silence stretched so long I wondered if he would speak at all. Finally, he sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "I'm just stressed, Lena. Work's been overwhelming. It's not about you." His words sounded rehearsed, thin, like a half-truth painted to look whole. I nodded slowly, but the ache inside me pushed one more question out. "Is there someone else?" This time, he looked straight at me, quick, sharp, almost offended. "No. Absolutely not. I would never do that," he said firmly. His denial was so strong, so immediate, that for a moment, I felt foolish for doubting him. He reached for my hand and added, "I know I've been distant. I'll try to do better. I promise." I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. So I gave him time, another chance, another stretch of hope. But his promises dissolved faster than the daylight. He missed Emma's school play, though she had spent a week practicing her lines just for him. He skipped the weekend trip I planned, a quiet beach cabin meant to bring us closer again. He said he was exhausted, needed to rest, needed space. Still, I waited. Still, I hoped. Then came the night that shattered everything. Erin was in the shower, steam drifting from under the bathroom door. His phone buzzed on the nightstand beside our bed. I wasn't trying to invade his privacy. I only picked it up because the vibration wouldn't stop. And there it was. A message lighting up the screen. A name I had never seen before, Olivia Hart. And below it, a sentence that made my blood run cold. "I miss you. Did you think of me today?" I didn't open it. I didn't have to. The truth was already glowing in my hand, undeniable and brutal. My legs weakened. My heart pounded so fast it hurt. Every excuse he had ever made, every argument, every promise, it all unraveled in a single heartbeat. I set the phone down gently, as if any sudden movement might break what was left of us. Then I sank to the floor beside the bed. The room was silent except for the sound of water running in the bathroom. And there, on the cold hardwood, I finally broke. Crying quietly, painfully, alone. Lena packed a small suitcase for herself and a pink backpack for Emma. She didn't tell Erin much, only that she needed time. Then she drove to her mother's house, the familiar white cottage with lavender bushes by the door. Her mother opened it with a warm smile that faded the moment she saw Lena's tired eyes. But she didn't ask anything. She simply pulled Lena into a long, quiet embrace. For the first few days, Emma played in the backyard while Lena moved through the house like a shadow. She helped her mother cook, folded clean laundry, sipped tea by the window, yet everything felt strangely distant, as if she were watching her own life from outside her body. There was no anger roaring inside her, no dramatic rage. Only a deep, heavy ache. A kind of heartbreak that didn't scream. It whispered. Her mother noticed the way Lena stared into space, but she respected her silence. At night, when the house was still, Lena lay in her childhood bedroom, listening to the soft hum of the old ceiling fan. In that quiet, memories rose and fell. How she met Aaron at 22, how she believed kindness could fix anything, how she promised herself she would never lose who she was. Now, she felt that version of herself slipping away. Every evening, Aaron's messages appeared on her phone. "I miss you both. I'm sorry. I'll change, Lena. Please talk to me." But each message felt like a thread that had already frayed beyond repair. Words without action. Promises without weight. Lena would read them, stare at the screen for a moment, then set the phone aside. She didn't block him, but she no longer replied. Something inside her had shifted, quietly, decisively. One morning, as she watched the sunrise bleed gentle colors across the sky, she finally understood something she had been afraid to admit. Sometimes peace doesn't come from holding on with everything you have. Sometimes it comes from letting go, at the exact moment your heart knows it must. A week later, Lena returned to her house, not to stay, but to face the truth without running from it anymore. The moment she stepped inside, the air felt heavier than she remembered. Aaron was sitting at the dining table, hands clasped together, eyes fixed on the wood grain as if he couldn't bear to look at her. She sat down across from him. Her voice was calm, steadier than she expected. "Aaron, I saw the message." He froze. His chest rose slightly, then sank. He didn't ask which message. He didn't pretend to be confused. "I don't want to live in a lie," she continued. "Not for Emma. Not for myself." For a long second, the room was silent except for the faint ticking of the kitchen clock. Finally, Aaron whispered, "I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you." There was no anger in his tone, only resignation, as if he knew the damage was already done. Lena realized in that moment that apologies don't always fix what's been broken. They sometimes just acknowledge the ruins. "I think we need time apart," she said softly. "I'm moving back to my mother's for a while." Aaron nodded. He didn't fight. He didn't beg. And strangely, that hurt even more. Lena packed the essentials and left the house that had once been filled with laughter and warmth. But she didn't look back. Not this time. Back at her mother's home, Lena began picking up the pieces of herself, not out of desperation, but with quiet determination. She rejoined the yoga class she had abandoned years ago. The first session left her breathless and shaky, but afterward, she felt something she hadn't felt in months: relief. A weight lifted from her chest, even if just a little. At work, she poured herself into new projects. Her mind welcomed the focus. She stayed late some evenings, not to avoid life, but to rebuild it. One afternoon, her team was assigned a complex financial audit, and a new colleague, Daniel Whitmore, joined the meeting. He was around her age, soft-spoken, with an easy kind of kindness that didn't try too hard. Over the following weeks, he offered help whenever she felt overwhelmed. Not in a way that overstepped, just a supportive presence. "You're doing great," he told her once after she handled a difficult presentation. The words were simple, but they warmed something inside her that had gone cold. There was no romantic spark, no sudden healing, but Daniel reminded her of something important: she was still worthy of respect, of gentleness, of being seen. Slowly, Lena's days became lighter. She cooked dinner with Emma, read bedtime stories, laughed at silly jokes. She spent mornings on the porch with a cup of tea, letting the sunrise wash over her like a promise of new beginnings. Her recovery didn't come from someone else saving her. It came from the moment she chose herself. And kept choosing herself, day after day. As I look back on everything, I realize my journey wasn't just about heartbreak. It was about rediscovering myself after losing my way for far too long. For years, I thought love was about endurance, about holding on, even when the weight became too much. But now I understand something different. Love is not proven through promises. It is proven through everyday choices, through presence, through honesty. Aaron apologized many times after we separated. His messages came at night, long paragraphs filled with regret. But regret doesn't rebuild trust, and it certainly doesn't heal wounds created by lies. I didn't respond with anger. I simply stopped looking back. My peace became more important than his guilt. Today, my life is quieter but clearer. I wake up to Emma's laughter, not tension. I cook breakfast without wondering why someone is late or distant. The air in my mother's house feels safe, warm in a way I had forgotten a home could feel. I learned that if someone makes you feel alone inside your own walls, that is not love. Love doesn't hide behind locked doors. It doesn't make you question your worth. And it doesn't push you into a shadow of yourself. Letting go felt like breaking at first. But over time, I realized it was actually an act of saving myself. The truth was painful. It shook me. It made me cry more nights than I can count. But it also freed me from illusions that were slowly drowning my heart. And now I want to ask you something. If you discovered a truth like I did, one that shattered your trust, what would you choose? Would you stay and hope for change, or would you walk away to protect your own peace? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to continue listening to emotional stories that help you practice English every day, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for the next episode.